Hey kids, it's July 26th, Sunday, another good day. Your mother and I had a little disagreement today, but I'm sure we'll recover. Other than that, it was brilliant. We swam, played games, and did all the usual holiday things. The older one of you also made a friend at the kids' club, which was lovely to see. You spent time together even after dinner and went to the evening show together. Hopefully you'll play again tomorrow so your mother and I can steal a little time for ourselves. Today I want to talk about something I was reminded of at the previous hotel. We were sitting beside the sea with our friends. Your feet were almost in the water, and the older one of you was building something in the sand. I'm still not completely sure what it was. Perhaps a castle. Perhaps simply a very important pile of sand. But you were taking it seriously. You gathered sand, pressed it down with both hands, built it higher, made the walls thicker. Then a wave arrived. Part of it collapsed. So you rebuilt it. Another wave came. You rebuilt it again. Then another. Each time you became a little more frustrated and a little more determined. You pressed the sand harder, added stones, built the walls thicker. It looked as though you had decided that somehow you were going to make this structure strong enough to stop the sea. The sea was not particularly impressed. I was waiting for you to become completely frustrated and abandon the whole project. But then something interesting happened. You stopped trying to make the wall stronger. Instead, you dug a small channel beside it. When the next wave arrived, some of the water flowed through the channel, and somehow, much less of it reached your structure. The castle stayed standing. You hadn't defeated the sea. You hadn't stopped the water. You had changed the way you interacted with it. You had stopped fighting directly against a force much stronger than you and found a way to work around it. Watching you reminded me of another idea I once heard Alan Watts explain. Yes, 2 Alan Watts references in a row. But he has a wonderful way of making old ideas feel alive. The idea is called Wu Wei, an ancient Chinese concept associated with Taoism. It is sometimes translated as non-action, which can be misleading. It does not mean lying on the sofa while life passes you by. It does not mean avoiding responsibility. It does not mean refusing to work hard. A better way to understand it is something like not forcing, acting without unnecessary struggle, responding to reality rather than constantly trying to overpower it. Alan Watts used a beautiful comparison: sailing rather than rowing. Imagine 2 boats. In the first, you are rowing. Every meter of movement requires your strength. You pull the oars, again, again, again. Your body creates the power. There is nothing wrong with rowing. Sometimes rowing is exactly what you need to do. But now imagine sailing. A sailor still has plenty of work. They must understand the weather, raise the sail, steer the boat, watch the water, adjust constantly, remain alert. A sailor is not passive, but there is one thing the sailor does not attempt to do: create the wind. The wind already exists. The sailor notices it, understands it, and adjusts the sail so that an existing force helps carry the boat forward. That is what I find so beautiful about Wu Wei. You still act, you still prepare, you still take responsibility. But instead of demanding that reality behave according to your plan, you pay attention to reality and ask, how can I work with what is already happening? This also connects beautifully with Stoicism. The Stoics repeatedly remind us that some things are within our control and others are not. We can control our choices, our preparation, our effort, our character. But we cannot command the weather. We cannot control every outcome. We cannot control other people. We cannot demand that life follow our plans. Wu Wei adds another useful question. Even when something is within our ability to influence, are we acting wisely? Or are we simply pushing harder because we don't know what else to do? That distinction matters. There will be times in your lives when you absolutely need determination. You may need to defend someone, keep a promise, complete difficult work, stand up for something important, continue after failure. Not forcing does not mean giving up the moment life becomes uncomfortable. Effort matters, persistence matters, discipline matters. But effort and force are not exactly the same thing. Effort serves the goal. Force often serves our impatience. Think about that. Sometimes we push not because pushing is useful, but because we desperately want reality to change faster. I recognize this in myself all the time. Imagine I'm working on a difficult problem. My mind is tired. I'm no longer thinking clearly. The sensible thing might be to take a break, walk, sleep, come back tomorrow. Instead, I stare at the problem harder. I become frustrated. I repeat the same approach. And somehow I expect my exhausted brain to suddenly become brilliant simply because I'm forcing it to continue. Or imagine I want someone to understand me. They don't. So what do? Sometimes, instead of listening more carefully or trying another explanation, I simply repeat myself more loudly, as though volume will magically create understanding. I do this more often than I would like to admit. The same thing happens in sports, music, work, relationships. You try so hard to perform perfectly that your body becomes tense, your timing disappears, your thinking becomes stiff. The thing you normally know how to do suddenly becomes more difficult. Sometimes the obstacle is not a lack of effort. Sometimes the obstacle is the tension created by trying too hard. I see this especially clearly in parenting. There are moments when I need you to put on your shoes, finish your food, brush your teeth, leave the house. We are already late. I ask. You resist. I ask again. You resist more. My voice becomes firmer, then louder. You become even more resistant. Soon we are no longer solving the original problem. We are simply pushing against each other. I want to prove that you must listen. You want to prove that you still have control over yourselves. The shoes are almost irrelevant now. We have created a power struggle. But sometimes I manage to do something different. I stop, lower my voice, give the situation a little space, and suddenly I notice something I had missed. Perhaps you need help. Perhaps you are exhausted. Perhaps you want to finish one tiny thing before leaving. Perhaps you simply need 2 minutes to adjust to the transition. The shoes still need to go on. I haven't abandoned my responsibility as your father, but instead of rowing directly against the current, I change the angle. And often, everything becomes easier. I wish I could tell you this is already a natural reflex for me. It isn't. I still force things far too often. That is one reason I record these talks. I hear my own advice and realize how often I need it myself. There is also something important here about silence. When your mind is noisy, every problem looks like something you need to attack. You become convinced that more action must be the answer. Push, speak, decide, fix. But sometimes the wisest action only becomes visible after you become quiet enough to see what is actually happening. When you slow down, you notice things. The wind, the current, the opening, the alternative route, the fact that perhaps the problem is completely different from what you thought. This is also why panic makes good judgment difficult. When we feel threatened or overwhelmed, our attention narrows. We become more reactive. We miss possibilities. Calming ourselves does not guarantee the right answer, but it creates room for better judgment. Children often do this naturally. You explore, experiment, adjust. If one method fails, you often try another. You don't always turn failure into a story about yourselves. You don't immediately think, I failed once, therefore I'm terrible at this. You simply try another way. We adults often lose some of that flexibility. We become attached to our plans, our methods, our identities. We think, this is the way I do things, or I have already invested too much to change. Then determination becomes rigidity. I sincerely hope you keep some of your flexibility as you grow. Be determined, but do not become rigid. Be disciplined, but do not worship struggle. Work hard, but do not assume the hardest-looking path is automatically the best one. Sometimes we almost become proud of suffering. We think that if something feels difficult, it must be meaningful. That is not always true. A difficult path may be necessary, or it may simply be inefficient. A wise person learns the difference. Remember your little sand structure. You could have spent the entire afternoon building higher walls. Perhaps you could eventually have made something strong enough to survive a few waves, but the ocean would always be stronger. Instead, one tiny channel solved the problem more elegantly. Water itself offers a beautiful example. Water is soft. You can put your hand through it. Yet over enough time, water shapes stone. It doesn't always win by attacking directly. It moves around obstacles, flows through openings, changes direction, and continues. A sail is another example. It looks far weaker than an oar, but with the right wind, it can carry a boat across an ocean. The lesson is not never row. Sometimes there is no wind. Sometimes you must row. Sometimes you need to wait. Sometimes you need to raise the sail. Sometimes you need to change direction entirely. Wisdom is learning which situation you are in. So when life resists you, don't immediately conclude, I must push harder. Pause. Ask yourselves, what is actually under my control? What am I trying to force? Is there another path? Am I being persistent or merely stubborn? Am I continuing because this matters or because changing direction feels like defeat? Is there already a force here that I could work with instead of fighting? Perhaps the right answer is to work harder. Sometimes it absolutely will be. But perhaps you need to rest. Ask for help. Listen. Wait. Change your method. Change your timing. Or accept something that cannot be changed and redirect your effort towards something that can. That is not weakness. Sometimes flexibility requires more wisdom than force. If you want to cross an ocean, rowing alone may not be enough. Learn to notice the wind. Learn how to adjust your sails. Know when to row, know when to wait, know when to turn. And remember that life is not always asking you to defeat the current. Sometimes it is asking you to stop fighting long enough to notice where the water is already willing to carry you. And do not ever forget, I love you both very, very much.